What's up, YouTube? So in this video, I'm going to be going over my top 5 linebackers in the 2022 NFL draft class. I'll have videos up on all these guys before this video hits YouTube, so go ahead and check those out if you want to, but I will go over all the players in this list as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm starting off with Brandon Smith at number 5. He is 6'3" and 241 pounds. But I do think he actually looks a little bit taller for some reason. Just on film, he looks taller to me. He handles trash very, very well. Gets through blocks well. I think he's actually pretty solid in coverage. Very strong player. Very fast and explosive. Very good burst. I think he could play with a little bit more discipline. His mental processing could be a little better, but it is in development. You can definitely see that it is improving. I do think he has had some pretty stupid penalties, which, that's a thing that he needs to iron out a little bit. But I like him playing different positions. I like him moving out to Will. I do think he definitely has the athleticism to play Will. I think he would be a really good Sam linebacker right now. Might be able to play a little bit of Mike, but I don't think he's quite ready for that yet. And I also think that just with his speed, I think, blitzing with him, I think is a very good thing. He just plays with a lot of attitude and anger, and I'm just a really big fan of him. So, yeah. Anyway, let's move forward. Number 4 is Christian Harris for me. I think he's a very solid blitzer. He's 6'2", 232 pounds, so a little bit smaller, but that's pretty normal for a linebacker nowadays. I think he deals with trash very well. Can definitely cover tight ends and man-to-man coverage. Can line up all over the field. Very, very good effort player. Very angry, hits hard. Quickness makes him solid in coverage, especially zone. But I don't really want him in coverage all game. I want to do a lot of different things with him. Misdirection can get him killed a little bit sometimes, so I don't know if I really want him playing Will. I think Sam is probably going to be where he fits best just because he does deal with trash pretty well. But then again, I think he can play Will sometimes just because of his athleticism. And I think he dodges blocks very well. But if someone does get a hold of him, he does kind of have a hard time getting off him. He just really does a good job of bouncing off of blockers and dodging them. But I think he's just a really, really good player. I see him probably as like a third-round guy. Same thing with Brandon Smith, honestly. I could even see them slipping into the 4th just because linebacker value is a thing. So we'll see. But these top 3 guys is where things really get fun. My number 3 and number 2 were very difficult to figure out who I wanted to put over one another. And I'll talk about them I'll talk about like where I came up with basically how I determine which player I liked over the other. I'll go over that once I go over both players. So anyway, so Wes Walker is 6'4" and 241 pounds. He ran a 4.52 40 at the combine. Very well coached, very instinctual player. Mental processing is really, really solid. Not the best in the class, but probably second best. I think he plays with a lot of discipline, does his job very well. He's not going to over pursue and get out of his angle. He's just going to do his job well. Speed is on the more average side. He definitely has enough athleticism to definitely get the job done at linebacker. But I don't think it's necessarily elite on tape. But I think his football IQ makes up for that in strides. He is a starting middle linebacker day one, in my opinion. I think he has the mental processing and the athleticism to do it, and I think he deals with trash well enough. He does have some tightness in coverage, which is okay. Sometimes his brain does get a little bit ahead of his body, and he tends to overrun his angles a little bit. So that is something. I do also think he could be a little bit better at dodging blocks. I think he deals with blocks very well and getting off of them, but I think he could do a better job just dodging them like completely. I see him probably like as a late first, early second round player. Like that's where his talent level is. I don't know if that's where he'll be drafted. That's just where I think his talent level is. So yeah. Let's move forward to my number 2, Devin Lloyd out of Utah, which I know a lot of people have him as their number 1, and I think it's pretty obvious who my number 1 is at this point. But anyway, Devin Lloyd is 6'3" and 235 pounds. Has a lot of burst and acceleration. He absolutely loves to just come down and smash people. Plays with a lot of anger. Very physical. Runs to the ball very well, has real speed, deals with trash very well. Mostly off-ball linebacker, but with his speed, I think he can line up at edge sometimes. Some pretty solid range for a linebacker as well, and very strong for his size. Moves the sideline to sideline very well. I think he's solid in zone. I think he could be better with his athleticism, but I do think that needs to be developed a little bit better. Really solid tackler. Aggression can kind of hurt him at times. I think misdirection is something that definitely isn't his friend. Can definitely cover tight ends very well. I think he's a tight end buster. I just think that his mental processing could be a little bit better. Like I said, I think he's really good in the pass game and like zone and stuff like that. But I think against the run, I think his mental processing and being able to read his keys could be a little bit better, and that is why he isn't my number one. And like I said, I would explain why I have Devin Lloyd over Quay Walker, because I had a pretty hard time figuring out who I liked better, because Devin Lloyd is definitely the higher ceiling guy. I think that, with his athletic profile, he can do things that Quay Walker just can't. But I think Quay Walker is a much more disciplined and well-coached player right now. And, his instincts and mental processing is so much better than Devin Lloyd's. But I think that Devin Lloyd's ceiling is just so high. And I think his floor is pretty good too. So I ended up putting Lloyd over Quay. But just barely. I actually had to really sit down and really think about who I preferred. But my number one is head and shoulders above them all, in my opinion, and that is Nakobe Dean. He is 6 foot and 225 pounds, so he is a little bit smaller. Some people are saying he's 5'11". I don't care. He is a very, very good player. His mental processing is by far the best in the class. I think he's pretty solid in man coverage. I think he definitely has the athleticism to get the job done as well. He's not quite as athletic as Devin Lloyd, but he's like one tick below that. Gets pushed around a little bit in the run game, but that's because I don't even know if I necessarily say that, because there are times where he really does just shed blocks very, very well. And I think he can line up as Sam, Will, or Mike, to be quite honest with you. I just think he could do a little bit better at dodging blocks outright. That is one thing I think he could be a little bit better at. But I think he's a very good coverage linebacker, and he plays with a lot of anger. He's a very high-effort player, very athletic. I think with his speed, he's a very, very good blitzer. I just think that his mental processing is so above all the other people in this class. I think Quay Walker is the closest, but I think Nakobe Dean definitely takes that up a notch. Now, I will say sometimes his aggression and his mental processing will kind of get the best of him, and he'll kind of work himself out of position, but it is rare. But I definitely do think he is head and shoulders above the others. Like I said, I think Quay Walker is probably like a late first, early second. I think Devin Lloyd is probably mid to late first, and Nakobe Dean, I don't know where he'll be drafted, but I think he's probably like a top 10 player in this draft talent-wise. So, that's the thing. So, anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, I appreciate you hitting that like button. If you have any questions or comments in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.